I'm focused on the spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Teen News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this back and forth with Abby Phillips and Scott, who's the lone Republican. He's not always alone, but on her program to talk about the SAVE Act. And I think obviously it's important to prove your citizenship before you vote, especially in federal elections. But and it is rare, I suppose, for non-citizens to vote. It does happen. It happened for a fact in the 2024 election. And at least there was a I think it was a Chinese national who's a student who did it. And the reason why we found out is because he tried to kind of undo it. I guess he was worried about it. So it's not like some great detective found out oh, we got a person who shouldn't have voted that voted. And then more information came out later that's happened more than just the one time. So it's an issue because those people who shouldn't be voting, once they cast their ballot and they can't undo it, their vote counted just as much as me. I don't like that. Okay. So if there's ways to shore up, that sort of election fraud, that's great. That's good. Is it like a number that's going to make a significant difference in some kind of national election or anything like that? I don't really think that probably is the case, but it doesn't matter. They still shouldn't be doing it. Some cases, some elections are down by the finest single digit numbers. I lost a primary when I ran for state rep by 6 votes. So sometimes the smallest margins, and that was teeny tiny. You can't really get closer than that. I mean, you can, but 6 is a very small number. But the Democrats have the craziest sort of argumentation about this. I think Republicans acting like this is so do or die. I think a little bit of it is theatrics. I saw a Scott Presler video the other day that was very much theatrics, and I'll probably play that video for you guys. But the Democrats will just jump through hoops to try to just say oh, this is terrible. How dare you? And Obama posted something about stop the SAVE Act. And I'm like, didn't you vote for a real ID? Which his administration went on to delay the implementation of it. So it does take time to get stuff right and get it correct or whatever. Because real ID, they pushing that in the Bush era, and it's just now to the point they've been pushing that you have to get your real ID for years. But it's now to the point of, hey, you cannot fly unless you have your real ID, but you actually can. You have to pay an extra fee and go verify yourself at the airport or something. So you still technically can, but they want people to have real ID. I know people who've been fighting against it for years, but I was just give me that real ID. I don't care. So I think the Democrats argumentation as far as minorities for can they get IDs, which is a conversation that we've had many times before, is just really stupid. And adding women to the mix, specifically married women. And I'm going to we'll talk about the whole thing. We'll watch the whole video and I'll reiterate this point later, but I'm just going to do spoiler alert. If you can't get your documentation together for voting, like if you can't figure out how to get an ID, you can't figure out how to get your birth certificate, you can't figure out how to get that documentation together by the time that there's an election, there's certain times throughout the years. There's the midterm, there's a general, there's other elections too, but you should be able to get it together if you're a functioning adult. If you can't do that, I don't really think you should be voting. I'm not saying you can't vote. I guess if you can't prove your citizenship, it's kind of going to be that way. But I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep over it on a personal level, because you should have your stuff together. You should be able to be a responsible and functional adult enough to get your documentation together if voting is that important to you, and it is important. And but if you don't even take the initiative to do something that simple, then I think there's probably a chance that you have no idea what you're doing when you go to the ballot. And I know people are like, oh, I'm so glad there's so many people out here voting. I obviously want people to vote the way that I want. I want, because I want to win. Like I want my people to win on the ballot. I want the agendas that I support to get passed and things to get done, obviously. So I want people to vote the way that I want them to vote. But people have differences of opinions, and they can go out and vote how they please. We'll try to debate and convince people before they get to the polls. But, they can vote the way that they want to vote. But I at least want people who are voting to be informed and not be like, I don't know, TikTok slave slop folks. or students who you rounded up and registered that day and then drove them to the polls. Okay. I don't want everyone to be, it's very easy to manipulate people with media and all kinds of different things, but I'd rather not people just herd a bunch of sheep bodies to the polls, that are just so clueless or whatever. I want like functioning adults making informed decisions about their lives and their families and their friends, their communities, etc., their school board, and so on. I'm not saying you got to know everything there is to know about folks, because I have people who in my life who weren't as savvy, who didn't pay as much attention, but when it came to time, they would ask questions and so on about who's good and whatnot and whatever. But there's folks who will just go to the nursing homes and start collecting ballots and and of people who like the low level sort of actions like those things are stuff that people should try to be on the lookout for. But I don't know how you fix it on a federal level. Those are more like local issues. But I don't think you just herding ballots to say get the max amount of people as possible to vote is the good thing. I think the most informed electorate going to vote is the good thing. I'm not saying I want poll taxes or stuff like that, but I'm just saying we should encourage responsibility with this great sort of honor that we all have and can exercise in this nation. That's my spoiler alert. That's going to be the gist. That's the thesis, the final conclusion of this conversation. We'll also talk about the fact that they had announced that the Operation Surge is going to be ending in Minnesota. So they're taking it out, and Homan, I guess, said that local authorities are going to cooperate. I don't know how much they will, but I think they're probably sick of the bad PR and people being harassed, and they can obviously get their numbers probably elsewhere. But hopefully it'll be good. But too bad for all the white women liberal tears who won't have reason to protest at Target anymore, I guess. So I'm sorry to get so far in my rant without finishing my intro, but you guys can go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, website, articles, reviews, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream and run my site, all that stuff you guys can support. I appreciate you. You guys can check out different merch there. You guys can check out different books that I have, like this American Civil War era book that's like historical fiction fantasy, and it's got some like alternative history stuff. And it's a really good book, and the first and the second one, and they just keep getting better. They just keep getting better. Which I guess if you're older and you're writing, and the more you write, you should get better. But I'm like, keep reading, it gets better now. There's a really good ending with the first book, but as well that I think will keep you people on the edge of the seat. But I got other books and stuff you guys can check out, like Bigger, which is a picture book about a baby dinosaur that wants to be bigger. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check out Bigger and pick that up. So funny thing, since I did mention my historical fiction book and stuff, I was working on something the other night, and I mentioned that AI is kind of out of pocket, and sometimes I worry about people's, I don't know, there's an attachment that a lot of people will have to it. There's a trust that some people have. Like sometimes I'm like, Dad, what are you watching? He's like, well, I'm just watching something. I'm like, is this YouTube? He's like, yeah. Like on Sunday, we came home from church, got our food, came over his house. There's something playing, and it was something about Bruce Lee. And I'm like, Dad, this is AI. And I think the pictures and stuff were real, but like the voice I could tell was AI. He's like, this isn't AI. I'm like, yes, it is. I know that voice is AI. And then it's just like a page that had like documentary type stuff on Bruce Lee, and there it started saying names and things that I didn't recognize. Not that I'm like a expert on Bruce Lee or whatever, but I start looking up stuff as he's listened to. I'm like, I can't find anything on some of this people that they're mentioning. And then another one started playing automatically, and then they start saying Jeet Kune Do, or maybe it was Do, Jeet Kune Do. And we're like, Dad, like, what are you doing? Like they're not even pronouncing this stuff right. And you know, because he grew up watching, you know, he's watching the Bruce Lee stuff, and so we've seen some of that stuff of Bruce Lee movies and things like that, and we're just like, this isn't accurate. And I just said, I'm like, I'm concerned, you know, sometimes when things pop on that it looks really real, and in this case they're real photographs they were using, but it was an AI voice. And the script to me also sounded like it was an AI, like, hey, write this biography about Bruce Lee or whatever, and they probably just had a machine read it and stuff. But the thing about AI is that it's not going to tell you all things that are true, and it won't claim that it'll lie, but it will hallucinate stuff. It'll hallucinate stuff. And I've had experiences where like ChatGPT has hallucinated things. And so has Grok. Like I experimented with Grok first, and I was, you know, just curious what it would say about some things about my book. And so there was one thing that, and of course, I would be horrified if it knew everything in my book and was like breaking into Amazon and reading like all the uploaded files that I had. So I'm glad it didn't know everything. But it started, I mentioned a scene that's in the first book, and it is a very important part, very dramatic scene. And then it starts telling me that didn't happen in the book. I'm like, yes, it did. And they're like, no, it didn't. And I'm like, I'm the author of the book. And it's like, oh my gosh, what an honor to be talking to you. And then it just switched up real quick. I'm like, okay, whatever. But the other night I was like writing a scene, and I'm not a super, I'm not a visualization kind of person. Like I need a lot of references to see stuff, look up stuff, you know, even for different scenes, for dresses, for things like that. So the historical stuff takes a lot of time just trying to do research and stuff. But um I was thinking about there's a scene them writing like in the White House, and I've been to the White House. At least like the East Wing and stuff. So I just wanted to make sure that I was like navigating correctly. And I'm asking like Google AI stuff, and I'm asking ChatGPT stuff. And ChatGPT starts insisting that you can't connect from like the green room to the East room. And I'm like, how are they? That's not, that can't be true. And so, and Google was telling me that the red room doesn't connect to the state dinner room. And I'm like, that's not right. And they're like, nope, state dinner room, you have to go out to the cross hall and then go around. I'm like, I know I've gone to that room without doing that. I know there's a door there. I know there is. And so I looked up a map, and I'm looking at a map from like the White House, and I'm like, ChatGPT, I'm looking on a map and it says this thing, and they're like, no, I can explain why a map looks like it's that way. And then it just keeps trying to explain to me that it's not. So then I start using the AIs to fact check each other. And then Google, I'm like, okay, Google, why is ChatGPT saying this? And then Google is like, ChatGPT is wrong because the door that it says doesn't exist. They actually used it for the funeral for Lincoln's son who died. And then ChatGPT's like, oh, my bad. And when it came to the red room, I'm like, I found a video from like the White House Historical Association, and I'm looking at the rooms. I'm like, okay, that is the door leading right to the state dinner room. I know that. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking right at it. And they're like, you know what? You're right. And I'm like, why do I have to argue this much with the machine, with these machines? I guess there's like slurs, by the way, that people use for machines. They call them clankers. So I told my sister about this. She's like, those darn clankers. And I'm like, if it's just being dishonest about this particular thing, what else is it lying about? Or hallucinating about? But it does seem like more than a hallucination. If you're really going back and forth with me on it. But I heard a story the other day about some lawyers who got in trouble with the judge because they had I don't know what AI it was. It was probably something like at ChatGPT to do like case law stuff, and it started making up fake cases with like fake references and stuff, and they didn't double check it, and they tried to like admit stuff and it with fake case law. And so they got in trouble, and the main person who did it said that they usually don't do that, or they double check stuff. But I think they had a spouse, their wife was sick or something like that, and the other lawyers didn't check it either. So just want to say, hey, it says at the very bottom of like at least ChatGPT, like ChatGPT can make mistakes. Please check important facts, important things. But just don't just take its word for it. You know, it's a helpful tool. It's an aggregate. It'll find a bunch of things, but that doesn't mean that it's getting all the correct kind of sources to draw a complete conclusion that you might be looking for. And in some cases, it will just straight up hallucinate stuff. And then be, leery of people who will use AI to just kind of make grand content that look like documentaries. And you're like, oh, this looks like a professional documentary thing that I saw on YouTube or somewhere. So they're saying things, I guess it's got to be true. There are documentaries that they'll put on Netflix and other places and they'll put in information that's not true or information that is so skewed for a narrative. And I was watching something about Commodus, the emperor, a lot of people know that's he was a character in Gladiator, but he's a real person and stuff. And I was watching something and they like altered his age for the documentary for like the it was like a fictionalized documentary kind of thing. I'm like, they're just really showing this odd view of something that's not real. Like, why do they do that for a documentary? People who know so much stuff on the Central Park Five, it's because of the documentary that had a lot of skewed information because they really wanted that settlement and stuff. And then they went on and did that movie, When They See Us, which is very fictionalized. Very fictionalized. And that's why so many people believe so many wrong things about the case. So you can't just trust stuff that you see on TV. You can't just trust stuff that you read on the internet, So I just want to put it out there. Just because a robot put it together doesn't mean it's correct, doesn't mean that it's true. And it's very easy to like sometimes debate the robots too. Sometimes about silly things. Like I got into a debate with ChatGPT because my sister asked me a question about who would win between Edward Cullen, Blade, Celine, and Klaus Michelson, and I gave my opinion on who maybe would win, and then she asked ChatGPT, and their answer was different. So I started introducing more facts that they hadn't considered, and every time I introduced a fact, they started altering their opinion, and I kept debating with it until it basically agreed with me. So just I had kind of mentioned this yesterday. I didn't get to it due to time or whatever. So I just wanted to get that off of my chest. Please be careful about being obsessed with these tools. They are tools, but they are they're imperfect. Okay. So I know there's like people who are really using it, not just lawyers, people in the government and all kinds of people use this stuff. So don't get in the habit of too much. Plus Bill Gates, I believe, it might have been Bill Gates, but there's some concerns about people not using AI enough. So we might see, I'm not saying it's going to go away, but to the degree that they're really trying to push it, we might not actually see the AI revolution like people had claimed, because a lot of people are really pushing back against it. People don't like the AI art because they're like stealing jobs from actual artists. People don't like when you use AI to narration because they're like, there are real narrators out there. So people will boycott it and all kinds of different things. So just really be careful. Someone said, I only use ChatGPT to create photos of my cat as a gangster. There's YouTube shorts, like pages where people just make AI cats doing stuff or babies doing, and they'll just get all kinds of views and clicks and stuff, and it's crazy. Yeah, people use it for neat sort of fan art and things like that, but just be careful with it. I'm not saying not use it, because I'll use it for some things, but it's not infallible. It's not always honest with you. It's not your therapist. A couple of months ago, we talked about a young person who actually took their life, and ChatGPT like helped them do it. And a parent was like suing Open AI. I haven't looked at that case in a minute. I'll have to see where that's going, because that was some time ago. But um, when I tell you it helped, it helped. Like it helped to conspire to help this person like take their life, which I was very surprised. Because I guess there's ways to get around it, but because there are like I wasn't using ChatGPT a lot of the time. I think I was still using Grok more, and Grok had some parameters that seemed like how did the AI end up helping them take their own life? But there are ways around it, I guess. Apparently. Anyway, let's chit chat about the SAVE Act and the scene with Abby Phillips on her show with Scott Jennings. This clip is about 5 minutes, so we're gonna definitely watch it for more than 5 minutes because we'll stop and start when something juicy happens, but I'll try not to do it too much.
This doesn't absolve Donald Trump of his racism. We all know exactly who he is. The reality is the conversation and the question should be, why do people continue to support him if they don't want us to believe they are okay with racism?
Wait, what voting rights is black voters?
Look at the That's exactly what we're talking about. That is actually going to continue to disenfranchise overwhelmingly a lot of people of color. There are so many civil rights organizations that have run the data. If we look at the way that it is going to disenfranchise black voters, it's the same reason why Chuck Schumer called it Jim Crow 2.0. So this is the same president. If we want to continue,
you haven't said how yet.
I am talking about it. It's the way that you're putting new poll taxes on this when you're making people have. That's what we can call them now. It's kind of idiom, right? I want to say that people have to prove that they are citizens, that they have to prove with a voter ID. The reality is you're layering what is a constitutional right for the American people and making it harder for people to vote in this country. And it's going to disenfranchise black voters.
I'm gonna let him finish, but I like how he's like, how? She keeps going. I am talking about it. No, you're talking about it, but you're not answering the question of how it's actually going to specifically disenfranchise black voters. And it's not going to specifically disenfranchise them. You could say that it's disproportionately going to maybe disenfranchise them because I guess maybe the claim is they have less access to their birth certificates for some reason. But I've seen videos of people going up to black people asking like, hey, do you have ID? And they're like, yeah, I have ID. Yeah, I know where the DMV is. Yeah, I know how to get ID. Like, what kind of question is that? Like, that's great. Like you need it, obviously to purchase a firearm. You need it to get like different cold medicines and things like that to do all sorts of things. You need ID. And I remember some years ago, I went to Arby's to pick up food for the family, and it was an order that was over $50, which gosh, isn't hard, especially when you have a family that is as big as mine. But I don't think I was even getting Arby's for like everybody, like for the family of 9 or whatever. But it was over $50, so they decided to card me to just make sure that when I gave them my card to pay for the food, that I was actually who I said that I was. Now, they don't always do that at fast food drive-thru, so maybe that particular Arby's had some issues with folks sometimes. But I went ahead, gave them my card, and I gave them my ID, and then they gave me my Arby's, and I pulled over. And I recorded a TikTok real quick, and I said, I would like to report a hate crime. I would like to report a hate crime because they carded me at Arby's and asked for my ID. And I've been told that asking for one's ID or proving who you are is actually racism. And this is obviously when TikTok was a thing, but I'm thinking this was it might have been 2020, might have been 2021. So it was a couple years ago. So I mean, we've been playing these dumb games for a while. Like Chuck Schumer is saying this is Jim Crow 2.0. They were saying that a couple years ago when Joe Biden said this makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean. But I made some funny videos based off of that, so whatever. And it's just so dumb. It's just so dumb. Oh, this is gonna disenfranchise black voters, and they've run the numbers, and this is a poll tax. It's not literally one, but it's an idiom. You can get an ID. You can get an ID. And if you want to help make it easier for people to get their IDs and documentations, then okay, let's do that. But pushing this idiotic notion that people of color can't get their IDs, or there's just going to be a massive amount of black people, or even like a significant number at all, or like even a significantly small one that won't be able to vote because of this. It is just really dumb. It's such a terrible excuse. The argumentation for it disenfranchising women, like for specifically married women, because they have to go and get other documentation when they get married, when they get the name change and stuff, so to make sure that's appropriate, so they can still connect and prove who they are. That's a better argument than bringing up minorities, but it's still really stupid. It's still really stupid. So I'll go ahead, and I know I already said this, my thesis, but let me just repeat it right here in case you missed it. If you cannot figure out how to get your documentation to prove that you're a citizen, because she's like, it's a right for the citizens. Okay, how do we know you're that thing that you claim? How do we know that you're the thing that you claim if you don't have documentation to somehow prove that you are the thing? Vibes? You just gotta go off your word? It's not too much to ask that you have some kind of documentation to prove that you are a citizen if you want to vote, to impact things that are going to affect the other citizens of this nation. It's not a hard ask. It could be a very inconvenient ask sometimes, but you have ample time to get your crap together. And if you cannot get it together because you somehow find yourself to be too incompetent to do so, then I don't think you should vote, to be frank. And that's just me giving a moral opinion. I would like functioning adults to vote. You may not vote the way I want you to vote, but I want you to be informed in some regard when you go and vote. And if you are the type of person who just ultimately just doesn't even care about getting your ID crap together to prove that you're a citizen to vote, sometime between an election that happens, I've just got kind of no sympathy. I don't get excited because they're like, X amount of people voted. This is the most people have voted. I want competent people who know what they're doing to go. I'm not saying I want some kind of IQ test. I'm not saying you gotta take some kind of, long sort of form, whatever test to figure out whether you can vote. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying at least this responsibility it's not a hard ask. It's not a hard ask. This is the right of every citizen. How do we know that you are the thing that you claim to be? How? How's the government going to validate that? How is the person at the polling station going to verify that you are the thing? So it's not a hard ask. It's just not. And crying about all this makes no sense to me. It's so disrespectful. It's so demeaning. And you can talk about Donald Trump being a racist all you want. I think that you people are pretty racist. It's a soft bigotry of low expectations. I don't even know if it's soft bigotry. It's like the low expectations are just absolutely rock bottom. And it's gross. If you can't figure out how to get your ID, or prove your citizenship, that seems nuts to me. That seems really nuts to me. We'll keep talking, watching this. I know they're gonna talk about passports and things like that. And Abby Johnson even like retweeted this and decided to like put a bunch of stuff to, I guess because she didn't think the argument was over after Scott posted it, but whatever.
Concern you that you're making all these claims, you've yet to lay out how it's hurting anyone, but 76% of black voters think we should show an ID to vote. 80% of Hispanic voters, 83% of the American people. Are you saying that black voters
the
are
SAVE
too
Act
dumb to
isn't
know
just,
what's good for them? I mean,
the
it
SAVE Act
sounds
isn't
pretty,
just about
it sounds pretty condescending
not
to
what
me.
I said.
The SAVE Act is
You get
not
three-quarters
just
of black
about
voters
IDs.
That is not
who want
right.
voter ID.
But
To
that's
be
not-
clear, the SAVE Act
that's
is not
putting words
just
in my
about
mouth.
ideas. The SAVE Act is about
So what?
proof of citizenship.
So what?
So it doesn't. I actually.
It also
we
makes it very
talked-
hard for
we talked
married
about this.
women who
I was just going to say, we
This is
talked
all
about this
young
before.
By the way,
It's not. It actually, there's an argument to be made that red state voters, women, poor white voters could be just as.
I know you think they're dumb too, don't you?
Young
I mean, that's the
voters?
thing.
Nobody
I hear these
dumb.
arguments. I've
Scott,
heard
hold on,
Democrats all
hold on,
week long.
Scott.
No,
Please don't. No, you listen.
There's a deflection from talking about Donald Trump's racism
I'm actually
right there.
You should be thinking about your constituents or your
yeah, I think they're smart enough to figure out how to
colleagues in
register to vote.
Kentucky.
Abby.
Hold on. Most Americans don't have a passport. Many Americans don't have access to their birth certificate. Many women, a majority of women who change their names for marriage
listen,
have to provide additional proof
all
that
week
they've
long,
changed their
all
legal
week long,
names in
I have
order to
heard-
register to vote.
I have heard
So,
Democrats
Scott, why
make
don't
these
you
same
actually
arguments.
respond
Right.
to the substance of what I'm saying?
I am, and the
as
substance
opposed
is
to
this.
making this
You're
about
saying-
something that it's not.
You're saying
it's not just
you're
about
saying
voter ID.
married
It's
women,
also about
black
who has
voters,
access
and rural people are
to-
too stupid to figure out how to
Excuse
register to
me?
vote.
No, that's
No,
not.
that is not what
so
she
offensive.
said.
making
That
this
is
argument
so
all the time.
offensive.
It's crazy.
That
That's
is so
not what she
offensive.
said.
Let me
Are you
offer
saying
the
they
proof.
figure out how
Let
to
me
vote?
offer.
Scott,
Let me offer
I
the
am
Are you
proof.
saying they can't
This
figure out
is
how
the
to vote?
exact same
It
argument.
is a fact that a majority of Americans do not have passports. Many Americans, including white people, okay, do not have their original birth certificate or
You
access
didn't say
to
what you
it.
said. Rural
I
white
would
people.
love to offer the proof of this.
Yeah, because that is also relevant. It doesn't matter to me where people
I guess
live.
I have a little more faith in
Do they have
rural
access?
America and married women than you.
Look, I don't
And
know
you're saying
why.
they can't
I
figure
don't
out
know
how to
why
vote?
you think
What
why
is
you're
going
making
on
this
here?
about whether you're smart or not.
You're
Access
saying that they can't
to-
vote, that they
access to
can't figure out how to
Scott,
document to register to
Scott,
vote?
access to documentation of proof of where you were born or proof of citizenship is an additional thing that people
Because
will
at
have
one
to
point,
do.
Scott's talking from this intelligent standpoint. Someone mentioned like you shouldn't have recorded this from the wrong way. My monitor, my setup is I should switch it just to it put the monitor over here, but my monitor, because I have my computer where I'm watching the video and my monitor where other stuff is at, so that's why it looks kind of the way that it's looking. But I'll fix my layout one of these days. But that's what's going on. Sorry, it's confusing. But there's been the sort of arguments about intelligence, or that's what's implied, and there's videos of people going up and asking like white liberals or white college students or whatever, like, hey, do you think what do you think about ID laws? And they're just like, oh, well, they don't know where the DMV is, or they don't have IDs, and just saying things that just isn't true about most functional adults. And then the contrast is you go to a neighborhood with a lot of Black people, and they're like, yeah, we know how to get an ID. We have ID. What are you talking about? We have ID. Of course we do. And I think the numbers are like 76% of Black people want the ID, and it's like 80 something percent of white people, 80 something percent of Hispanics. So it's not a controversial issue as far as wanting the ID. Now, if the argument is beyond the ID and needing to prove that you're a citizen, you would need like your birth certificate or your passport, because if you have your passport, then you've done certain things to validate that you're a citizen and stuff, right? So Abby's right. A lot of people don't have passports, and the passports, of course, also expire. You can still use your expired passport for some things though. But when I went to Israel in November, I got an expedited passport. And originally, when I knew I was going on the trip, I did have time to do it the long way. But there was just different stuff that popped up, and I just kind of decided, like, okay, I'll just do it the expedited, because I was getting kind of anxious anyway. And I'm like, you can actually go to like the passport office, and they'll give you a passport on that day, but you got to pay like the expedited fee and the like passport fee, and you have to go get a photo from like I went to FedEx, like FedEx Kinko's, to get my photo. You can get them lots of places. And a lot of the stuff you can just do like online to renew and so on. But I don't want to do that. I wanted to expedite it. So there was an office in Detroit that I had to go to, and they did everything there, and I got it, within a couple hours of being there and giving them my information and stuff. You have to book an appointment, and you have to have all your stuff together and pay there. But my dad lost our birth certificates. I did have my old passport that had expired, but it expired a long time ago. Like I got it. I was a minor, and minor passports, I think they last a while. But I haven't gone out of the country since I went to the Philippines in the 10th grade. And I graduated 2007. And so it was a long time ago. And I had the passport for some years, anyway. So I got it when I was pretty young. So I didn't know if that was going to be proof enough, and ChatGPT wasn't being totally clear, because they're saying it's up to the discretion of the agent, I guess, that you work with. So I was a bit anxious about it. And so I'm like, okay, well, I have my passport, but let me try to find my birth certificate. And so my mom had our documents and stuff together. And my dad, my mom passed away, for those who don't know. And so my dad had gone through some stuff to find his for some reason, and all of ours were together. And then no one knew where they were. He just lost like eight birth certificates, like all the same time. And I'm like, how'd you lose all of our birth certificates, Dad? And so we looked in his room and so on. My mom had like a ton of documents and stuff, and we were just looking through all her stuff and couldn't find it and where he might have put it. And I looked through it, and no one kind of wanted to really help me. But then when I couldn't find it, my sister Tina came in and tried to help me, and she couldn't find it, and he was no help. So this was the night before my appointment. And I couldn't find the birth certificate. So I'm like, oh shoot. So what I had to do was, that morning of my appointment, I just went down to the county office. I drove down to the county office, And I went first thing, so there wasn't really a line. There was like 2 people in front of me. I paid like, I don't know, $15, $20. I think it was just 15, but I got an extra one. And they gave me my birth certificate. And they needed a copy at the passport place because they weren't going to just keep my extra real birth certificate. So I went to a like a copy place, a printing place that was in the area. And I'm just like, I need a copy of this. And they did a copy of that. And I went to the passport office, paid the money, gave my stuff, and they're just like, why do you have like this extra birth certificate stuff? I'm like, it's a long story. And they gave me my passport that day. So it's not everybody has a passport because a lot of people don't see a reason to have one. It's not very complicated to get one. It's not complicated to get your stuff together. You just need to make sure that if you have a destination to go to, you have to have ample time to just get it together. But it's not hard unless you're just really hard up for the fee to get one. But it's not hard to get a passport. So I just want to put that out there. And by the way, if you do an expedited passport, you do need to prove that you have somewhere to go. So there's like a need for it. Like if you might need a expedited passport, like if maybe someone dies and you have to go to a different country or something, you could, I don't know, have some kind of information about the death and so on. But in my case, I had my ticket information, and I had information about the hotel, and I had a letter from Kufai saying, because I let them know, like, hey, I'm going to do this expedited, and they were kind enough to do that. I actually had got another opportunity to go to Israel. I think it was a lot of like pastors who were going, and it was actually like the government that was paying for it, not the U.S. government, the Israeli government. I'm not saying that I automatically knew I was going to go, but someone had recommended it to me. But I didn't have an actual passport at the time, so I couldn't do that one. But Kufai was cool with me like doing the expedited thing. So it's not hard. It's not hard to get a passport. Just FYI. And it's obviously not difficult to go and get your birth certificate, especially if you know where it's at. Now, I understand not everybody lives in kind of the same area their whole lives in the vicinity. I've always lived in the same county. So I understand that my experience is going to be different than other people. I understand that some people, in one point I did live in like a rural part of Michigan. So that would have been a much further drive to go to the county office to get my stuff, but still very possible. I know not everybody has access to transportation sometimes, but we have we have public transportation, we have Ubers and Lyfts, and friends can help you out, and a lot of different things you are able to just kind of do online or whatever. But there's a way that you can get your birth certificate. Excuse me. So she brought up the passport thing because to prove your citizenship, you can use your passport or you can use your birth certificate. But you don't need the passport, and you can just get the birth certificate. And there's a way to get that. You should have that somehow. If you're an adult and you don't have it, or it was not in a safe place, because it wasn't a safe place when my mom was here. She had those documents and stuff together. I guess my dad was no longer the safe space. So I got 2. So I could just have an extra one, make sure I got it together. You know, things happen. People steal stuff. People lose things in fires. People move from their mom or who maybe has. So those documents, you really should have one yourself. Just, you know, just FYI. It's just part of adulting. As far as women changing their names, my mom, we actually found out at one point that she hadn't gone through all the documentation to be a Barr, and she was still technically a Davis. So we were teasing her a bit when we found out or whatever. But she and my dad eventually went and got that, you know, taken care of. And actually I think that's the case with my sister. Her stuff is still technically Barr, but you can get that stuff taken care of, get your Social Security card, whatever, updated when you take your husband's name. If that's what you want to choose to do, go ahead and just go the full steps of completing your documentation. It's just a part of the things that you do when you want to become one flesh, when you want to join together and union and have your, I don't know, be on the same sort of joint filing and be someone's, you know, be responsible if someone gets into a horrendous car accident and you got to say whether you're going to resuscitate them or not. When you get those kind of responsibilities, I think you can at least get your documentation together. It is not a hard ask. So Scott's saying like, oh, you guys think all these people are stupid. Like, no, how dare you suggest that that's what we're saying? So what is it? Is it they're just lazy? Are they too poor? Are they, what is it? What are the barriers that you are suggesting that makes it so heinous, that makes it a hate crime? Because they're trying to pair like, oh, Donald Trump is racist. This is why they want ID to push this stuff. What is it about Black people that you think is so debilitating that they can't get this together? And what, you just think it's unfair that women have to take the extra step? Men would have to do it too if they took the woman's name. That's not like unheard of. But you don't have to do it, I guess. You keep your name if that's what you want. But if you want to take his name, you got to give yours up. It's not a hard ask. Someone said my mom immigrated from Mexico. Mary changed her middle name and last name, still has a copy of her birth certificates. So it's just not a hard ask. And no one is explaining what is so difficult about it that this suddenly becomes a hate crime. Scott was like, how with the first lady? No explanation.
People actually weren't even allowed.
It's a barrier.
It is a barrier.
This is exactly.
Do you have your original birth certificate?
Yes.
Okay. But at one point,
does everybody that you know have their original birth certificate?
Everybody that I know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
but I know where mine is. I know where my kids are.
There are elderly people in this country who are 80 years old and they haven't seen their original birth certificate in decades. They would need to provide proof of citizenship.
It is not fear-mongering at all. It's not fear-mongering at all.
It's a reality.
It's not fear-mongering at all.
Listen,
Jim Crow 2.0.
Scott,
they say that about the Georgia law. What happened? Voter participation.
By the way, you have a proposal, you look at the impacts of it, and you decide whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing to do. I think it is perfectly fair, whether you think that it disproportionately affects people of color or not, to ask the question, will a majority of Americans who want to be able to vote be able to access the documents that they would need in order to prove citizenship?
But Abby, you're asking the underlying question, which is impact. The reason that it works this way is impact. You mentioned Jim Crow 2.0.
No, I
what you just said, the words Jim Crow 2.0, so I'm going to put it right here at the moment.
And
that's exactly the way that Jim Crow.
That's what Chuck Schumer called it. That's why he's repeating it. But again, they said this stuff. Like, he's right about the Georgia law. They said it about the Georgia law. and voter participation did go up. So, and they did so much fear mongering. I know a pastor who was out there in Georgia, and the governor actually did come and meet with different pastors to talk about it, because they had people flipping out about it so much. And it was the sort of propaganda was just really insane. And people obviously went out and was able to vote.
1.0 was born. They took laws.
Democrats were wild.
Well, yeah, I won't finish. They took laws that were operational in the North, and they said these work on by the in the letter, but we're going to disrupt the spirit. They're going to take these laws and use them on Black people in the South to disenfranchise them, and that was the effect.
Everyone, thank you very much.
This is
it's Black people are saying ID is good. He has a point about there's a lot of people who are very elderly and they haven't seen their stuff in decades. It's not impossible to find a way to help your elderly parent, or I guess not everybody has some kind of help. It's not impossible to try to help people get the proper documentation that they need to prove some kind of citizenship. You can ask questions about maybe how quickly it's going to be implemented, because the real ID, which Obama's complaining about the stuff, but he voted for real ID. They slowed it up to make sure that they could that different states would be compliant and stuff. So it just now really started kicking into effect recently. And there's still like exceptions, because you could still fly without real ID, but you just have to like go somewhere in the airport and verify yourself and pay some kind of fine. So there should be ways to help people, but the question is it good for people to prove that they are citizens if they're going to vote? Yes. How are you going to prove that you're a citizen? A birth certificate is one way. The passport is one way, because if you have a passport, you've already proven that one way or another. So if you're complaining about these rights that citizens have, how are you verifying that these are actual citizens that are being disenfranchised is the question. So it's just no one is still explaining. The best sort of pushback from Abby here was probably the comment about super elderly people not seeing it in decades, but there's not really explaining why for average people that it would be such a detriment and disenfranchisement if they have to prove that they're a citizen somehow. Anyway, Scott Presler had said it, I think it was like a round table, and he was around some different I think lawmakers and influencers, not like online influencers, but people of influence rather. And he was talking about this and the need for passing it. And I think things like this are probably overstated.
Again, and I'm not being disrespectful, but under the leadership of former Speaker Paul Ryan, all we gave the American people was tax cuts. And we ran on tax cuts and we got walloped. If we repeat the same mistake and only run on tax cuts and not give the people election integrity reform, we will see a resurgence of the squad, and we will have a repeat of 2018. And that means that our president will be impeached on day 1 of 2027.
Someone's like, so true, so true. I don't see how that's so true though. Like if you're saying like all we gave them was tax cuts, and if we don't give them the SAVE Act, the American people are going to be so upset. I don't think the SAVE Act is going to be or a make it or break it piece of legislation that's going to determine the midterm. I'm not saying that people are, especially the Republican Party, they care very much about election integrity. It's a very important issue. But that's not going to be more concerning to people than I think the border issue, which of course border crossings are remarkably down because people know that someone's going to enforce it. People don't like the images of what was going on in Minnesota and stuff. So his positions aren't quite as popular as they were like right out the gate. But people are still hurting in the economy right now. And people are talking about affordability. Ben Shapiro kind of thinks it's a scam to use that word. He doesn't say the word scam, but because people always kind of, it's a perception thing, whether you think something is actually affordable. Like, is there actually going to ever be a time where you're not complaining about paying for some things, you know? So inflation isn't obviously what it was. And there's a lot of prices that are down. Like, people were paying like $5, almost $5 for gas. In some places they were paying $5 for gas, like in the Biden era. That was killing folks. And now it's under $3. Is it under 2 anywhere? I don't think so. No. I think the lowest I've seen it is like maybe 260 something, but I think right now in Michigan, I don't know where you guys are all at, but in Michigan, I think it's like 289 or something like that. But a lot of things have gotten better, but there's folks who still, the narrative is affordability. So it's the economy stupid. That's what people are kind of focused on. Crime is always an issue on a lot of people's minds. So I just don't think that this narrative of we're going to get walloped in the midterms if we don't pass the SAVE Act, and then they're going to impeach Donald Trump, is going to be the thing that motivates people to go out to the polls. If the argument is we have to go out and do the SAVE Act or they're going to steal the election, we obviously won the last election. So I don't think that narrative is quite there either, but that makes more sense than this is what the American people want so bad, and they're gonna just stay home and not vote for Donald Trump, and then he's gonna get impeached if we don't deliver for the American people. To me, that doesn't track. So people going, so true. That's really weird to me. Someone said they're fixing to impeach him anyhow. Man, if they impeach him a third time, I'm just like, for what, bro? But they didn't have good reasons to do it before. I mean, I can kind of understand the second. I don't know. The first time was really dumb, really corrupt, actually, about the phone call. The second time, because it's like obstructive Congress, I'm like, you're impeaching the executive branch, the president, over like obstruction of Congress. And then that was one of the charges, and the other one was like was it just obstruction? No, it was like, I forget how they phrased it, but it was dumb. And of course, after he got impeached after January 6th, but I'm like, he's about to be out the door. This is a lot of theatrical stuff. But whatever. And they acted so fast that they had people testifying things that weren't true about that day and so on. So I just really didn't feel that it was appropriate, whether you're very upset about what happened on January 6th or not. It's still important when you go after people with some kind of proceedings that you have correct information when you do these things. Anyway, very quickly, let's talk about President Trump pulling out of Minnesota. President Trump, this is a Fox News report, Border Czar Tom Homan announced Thursday that the administration will conclude Operation Metro Surge in Minneapolis. Homan told reporters during a news conference at the Bishop Whipple Federal in Minneapolis that the operation succeeded and is reducing public safety threats with unprecedented levels of coordination from state officials and local law enforcement. As a result, our efforts here in Minnesota is now less of a sanctuary state for criminals, Homan said. I have proposed, and President Donald Trump has concurred that the surge operation concluded, he said. Homan said a significant drawdown of immigration agents was already underway and will continue through the next week. The borders are announced last week that 700 federal officers would leave Minnesota through 2000, though 2,000 officers will remain. So there's still going to be people there. It's not totally leaving, but the huge surge. He cited improved cooperation with jails and said a complete drawdown was the goal, but it was contingent upon the end of illegal and threatening activities against ICE. Homan said Thursday that a small footprint of personnel will remain for a period of time, while he also remain on the ground to oversee the operations drawdown and success. Additionally, federal government personnel assigned to conduct criminal investigations into the agitators, as well as personnel assigned here for the fraud investigations, will remain in place until the work is done. So still keeping folks there. Then Tim Walz said, "Will you help you go?" Minnesota Tim Walz, a Democrat, told reporters later Thursday that he had spoken with Homan following the news conference, saying that Homan assured him that federal agents would be leaving. He said, "We will help you get to the airport. We will clear the roads to get you to the airport," Walz said. "I will come over and pack your bleep bags if that's what it takes." What a jerk. Federal authorities say the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement sweeps focused on Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area have led to the arrest of more than 4,000 people. Homan took over the Minnesota operation late in January after the second fatal shooting by federal immigration agents and amid growing political backlash and questions about how the operation was being run. So I'm not surprised, but they're not totally pulling out. Hopefully they do actually get local help and cooperation. And this isn't just a thing to save face and peace out. But anyway, I wonder what all these crying moms are gonna do. They might have to like take time to raise and love their children. And this is kind of off topic, not totally off topic. I saw a video today of someone on TikTok. Their school was trying to do a protest and they like locked the doors. So she was mad and saying it's a mostly white school, and because of Trump, blah, 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 they wouldn't let people leave. And I'm just like, good. You're there to learn. You're there for school. Good. They didn't let you just go outside and protest. Seriously, if you care about that, do it on your own time. Do it on your own time. I just want to skip class. Like, I'm not saying they don't want to do it, but be motivated to do it on your own. Your parents take you to school for specific reasons, and people disappearing, walk around the neighborhood, or maybe some people don't leave the premises. It's not for you to go there and make the school political and to do that on the grounds. It's not for you to be able to go around the neighborhood without your parents knowing where you're going, filling out permission slips and all that kind of stuff. And it's just not the time and the place of the school. You can go do that later with your mom, with your mom's friends, or whatnot. But I'm not gonna have sympathy because you wouldn't let yourself be used as a political pawn. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream, run my site, and all that good stuff. So you guys can support. I very much appreciate it. And you guys can check out my different books and things like that. There's a link in the description that'll take you to my book Bigger if you want to read that and check that out. Okay, and I will see you guys